Welcome to Cognis Group Future in Focus Reports. My name is Jess Garrettson, and I'm CEO at Cognis. Today's report is brought to you by Bill's blog at TechCast. Please follow Bill at billhalal.com. The following perspective is from Hazel Henderson, Preventing an Internet Crash, Conserving Precious Bandwidth. Now that everyone and every organization on the planet is going virtual, we can observe some simple rules and etiquette in all of our online communications, so as to preserve our internet and ensure priority access for our children trying to learn online, and all our first responders, health and public service providers, and trusted information sources. Naturally, we humans are social creatures, and in most countries in isolated lockdowns, we yearn for our natural physical connections and contacts. This has led to reaching out online as never before and is straining the platforms that provide these services, as reported by The Economist breaking the net from April of 20. These services are still providing streaming videos, TV binging, exchanging cat pictures, and the arms race of webinars, video conferences for operations, marketing, and management of millions of companies of all sizes, as well as online gaming and other less necessary, often frivolous uses. We, along with millions, were backing net neutrality, allowing all uses of the internet equal access for all content. Yet, as noted, the question on everyone's lips is, will the coronavirus break the internet? Hopefully these platforms will be robust enough for handling all of this explosion of traffic online. The weakness may be mobile networks, where in many parts of the developing world, the 4 billion or so users of the internet access it by mobile phones. Many are also using their phones for entertainment, as well as work and personal communications. Base stations are overloaded, calls drop, speed slow, while in developed societies, telecoms are dealing with huge surges in call volume. Yet the long stay-at-home rules continue. People are turning to video chatting and streaming video and more online entertainment. Those thrown out of work cannot get on unemployment websites or phones to access their checks. European and other regulators have been asking big streaming services, Netflix, Amazon, YouTube, to reduce the quality of their videos to free up capacity. Many advertisers in the U.S. are still running obsolete ads showing happy crowds, hugging, portraying physical togetherness, irresponsibly wasting bandwidth while contradicting current rules on physical distancing. So why don't all of us who are conscious of the vital need to maintain these internet services just use and promote our own rules with responsible internet use, especially when video is unnecessary and we can communicate effectively on audio, our phones, and landlines? We use these simple rules. Make sure your communications are necessary and can be on email, audio, and phones where possible. If video is necessary for meeting new people on webinars, make the use of video for introductions, then turn to audio for the meetings and only turn video on to wave your goodbyes. Make sure that any webinars you organize are for information purposes rather than for comfort, entertainment, competitive branding, advertising, PR, and marketing. Simplify your emails and make your communications as concise as possible. These simple rules will not harm anyone's business or outreach activities. Rather, just politeness and consideration for essential uses and public information can ensure the internet can continue to be the vital backbone of our lives for the foreseeable future. The following report is from Asia by Peter King. Among my peers, there's considerable anxiety about what kind of world will emerge from COVID-19. The accumulating threats to the planet, climate change, biodiversity loss, deforestation, illegal wildlife trade, air and water pollution, depletion of fish stocks, loss of coral reefs, among others, have been put on the back burner while billions of people are hunkering down at home. On the other side of this pandemic, we will go all out for the economic recovery of the remaining absorptive capacity of the planet, or we will have a learned ultimate lesson. Nature always wins in the end. Here are the top comments 2 people have given me. Former private sector manager in Asia. Since humans have become such rotten custodians of the planet, I give them 100 years. Maybe before we are wiped out. We deserve it. Maybe some indigenous groups who understand the need to live in harmony with nature will survive. It rather amazes me that relatively few are concerned about the destruction of nature and the climate change time bomb. Will COVID change the world? Doubt it. The big corporates will emerge stronger and more dominant than ever. The USC is hell-bent on his agenda, the US with theirs. Only a massive, frightening climate change event that endangers all humans will bring genuine cooperation. Maybe too late by then. Perhaps advocating the destruction of the planet and embracing it will actually spur the complacent into action. There are younger generations who have never experienced any real setbacks, financial crisis, etc. This may make them political activists, for better. Another from a retired project manager in Asia. Interesting, but I cannot get onto the level referred to by Ruben Nelson. We do not get it that if we are to have a future, it lies beyond our MTI cultures and form of civilization. I can, however, understand David Passick's article. I'm a pragmatic, nature-loving retiree, wondering where the fish have gone and catching up on books and TV, having literally just finished an assignment. Concerning Danish Bushnell's back to the land scenario, how can everyone have a bit of land? Or is he assuming the top few percent will be the only survivors and get the land? But I empathize very much with Dim Dater's comment. When I was young, in the 1950s and 60s, there was very good reason for me to feel the arc of history was indeed bending towards justice, equity, balance, and peace. Sure, there are plenty of obstacles and setbacks, but there are also unbelievably positive social changes in the way humans behave towards one another, other inhabitants of the earth, and the earth itself. Another perspective is from Jose Verderio. Crisis equals danger plus opportunity. The Chinese word for crisis has two characters. The first character represents danger, and the second represents what can be interpreted as opportunity, change of time, moment, or chance. Even though the meaning of the characters can vary according to the context and nearby characters, the understanding of crisis as danger plus opportunity can help us to analyze the present situation of our planet. We are currently living in a mega crisis, which implies mega danger but also mega opportunity. Even though the COVID-19 originated in China, it is now a global problem and requires a global solution. This mega crisis can be a mega opportunity to move forward together as one global family in our small planet if we avoid the mega danger of standing divided against our common enemy. COVID-19 probably represents a worse pandemic in about a century, but thanks to the exponential advances of science and technology, we might be able to stop it soon together. I am convinced that we will have some antivirals in the next few weeks and first vaccines in a few months. It is quite possible that this terrible pandemic will be remembered in the future of having been overcome with unprecedented speed. COVID-19 is being a great learning opportunity for humankind. It is very likely that we will sequence the next pandemic virus in just 2 days, and the next one in 2 hours, but not in 2 weeks as it was for COVID-19 now, or in 2 months for SARS 2 decades ago, or in over 2 years for AIDS 4 decades ago. After this mega danger, the world will be better prepared for new pandemics and more global challenges such as climate change, wars, terrorism, earthquakes, tsunamis, meteorites, and other space threats, among many future challenges. It is an opportunity so that this will be the last great pandemic that all of humanity will suffer. A perspective from Michael Lee on broken politics. The world will surely rise again when the COVID-19 pandemic has peaked and receded, but it will not be the same place. By then, we may have lost over 250,000 souls. At the same time, we could be facing unemployment and poverty on a scale that will dwarf the impacts of the financial crisis of 2008-2009, which led to the Great Recession. When the global economy awakes from its lockdown hibernation, will it be a zombie economy? Will the epoch of wars and empires, which has engulfed history and caused more death and grief than I can stomach to calculate, finally be over? Can we come together as one human race, black, white, yellow, brown, and all the beautiful shades of human skin, to focus on the one reason why we're all here in the first place? To use our fleeting lives for the total ethical uplifting of human civilization? Many brilliant minds have become the dashboard of civilization in our times, a kind of intellectual mission control for guiding our Earth ship to safety, have identified several underlying causes of the megacrisis. I can add only one thing at this time. The misalignment between the political cycles of democracy, driven by elections every 4 or 5 years, and all other time cycles, including in the following systems: economic, environmental, energy, educational, and demographic. The need for reform of political systems has never been greater. To whom are political leaders and parties accountable for the long-term impacts of their policies? The corruption, self-interest, showmanship, misinformation, and time-wasting that results from these short-term electoral cycles, which underpin modern Western politics, is the one main reason for our dysfunctional world. Nor can the bloated autocracies and oligarchies outside the West be considered as alternative viable role models. Political leaders seem more focused on staying in power in the next election or on extending power indefinitely in an obliteration of freedom than on mission-critical long-term projects like solving the climate change challenge or overcoming poverty and inequality. The short-term electoral cycle is entirely out of sync with the true rhythms of Earth and of civilization. The ethical reform of political systems should encompass a core concept of becoming aligned not just with the time cycles that are true to life itself, but to the need of humanity crying out as one for an end to its paralysis in the face of worldwide political expediency. A perspective from Fadi Bayoud. Can this be the resurrection of a billion phoenixes? Considering all the suffering that is happening now, be it in health, economy, society, or psyche, is it too utopian to draw an optimistic image of the future? After all, we Homo sapiens are emotional beings who dream big and aspire for transcendentals, beauty, using arts, truth, exploring science, and goodness, guided by spirituality. The optimistic image is not the best case scenario because best is very subjective. I watched yesterday a young man on BBC saying that what is happening now and the expected economic collapse is great news for him because he's able to make lots of money. Well, let him make his lots of money. Good for him. But let us imagine a future where his money is not very much use to us. Reading stories about ordinary people and watching short videos about how neighbors who otherwise never met each other, seeing them eager to talk, to share a meal on balconies, enjoy a glass of wine together celebrating Easter. These small things make me optimistic about our future. Although Homo sapiens have seen worse times, the current connected world with the stories being circulated, the hopes being raised, and the common collective suffering will change people's perspective on what is important and what is less important. We become now to appreciate a handshake. This small 0.15 micron virus could wreak havoc in the biggest nations, challenge colossal economic systems, crash long-standing social chauvinism, demolish false perception of power, shake the not-so-buried belief in superior races. However, it seems to have failed to hurt the human collective system and spirit. It seems that we are rethinking what we consider value. I want to hope that we are aligning our value systems to principles that transcend cultural, social, racial differences, and that endure across the ages. As our mythologies tell us, the current suffering is a must for a better life. It is a baptism by fire and sickness, of death and pain, of despair and agony. Many current and past religions have talked about resurrection because it is human to dream of, aspire for, and act on having a better life. Humanity will rise again. It is a resurrection for a better life. It is the billion phoenixes. The image of the future that I see is beautiful as a priceless piece of art where spirituality drives human relationships. Science is respected and governments invest more in scientific research. The family regains its importance for the well-being of its members with the society's help when needed. People's development becomes a social policy regardless of centralization or decentralization. Education becomes free and foresight-oriented. Free access to the digital world is a human right. Economies become shared and sustainable. Cities are clean hubs of human interaction. The countryside and nature are a source for spiritual, psychological, and somatic healing. Industrial energy production is sustainable. Individual households produce their own energy needs. As air is free to inhale, water becomes free to drink, where rivers and lakes are a source of pure and clean water. Health paradigm shifts to prevention. Food is cheap to produce. Meat production animals roam freely in designated areas. Wildlife is protected and respected. Utopia? A far-fetched dream? An impossible and preposterous image of the future? I see it as a possible and even plausible future. Why do we not make it a preferable future? A perspective from Giulio Milan. What should be the actions now and in the future to avoid this crisis? COVID-19 is teaching us the concern that human beings have on this planet, but also the instability of the order in which we have all settled as a civilization. It is not the first time we are experiencing a pandemic, and of course it will not be the last one. We have in our hands the possibility of not only finding answers to face a current crisis, but also the great responsibility to anticipate and respond to what we're going to do to be prepared for future crises. In recent months, it has been shown that we need empathy and solidarity in the world. The effects of the pandemic could have diminished if international cooperation had flowed and if human interests had been given priority over economic ones. But as Thomas Hobbes says, man is a wolf of man, because we are so used to living in a society where the most important thing is individual well-being. The mega crisis resulting from COVID-19 pandemic is showing us that we have been leading the wrong model. It is not about individual gains, but about the common welfare. It should be a good time to behave like good citizens and understand what it means to do things for our community, to be empathetic to our neighbors, and to create better societies. But this is not the case, and that is why the crisis presents us with a great challenge that has gone from being a health issue to putting in check the entire economic, political, and social system in which we have lived. As the South Korean philosopher Bong Chul-han wrote in an article, Western civilization must recognize that the true wolf of man is individualism, and by admitting it, it will mean the end of liberalism itself. Are we truly ready to transition to an Eastern order? Regarding Mexico, it is a neighbor country to the United States and therefore is a dependent and peripheral economy. The measures that have been taken have been few and have demonstrated the deficiencies that the country has in two critical areas, in health and in the generation and economic development through employment. The current government has shown short experiences to face this crisis, and the worst thing is that all decisions are politicized, ignoring the real situation of the change of the world to a new era of cooperation. Mexico could represent a risk for the United States if the situation results in violence, for which, in this sense, the United States-Mexico relationship is uncertain. Our concern now should be what we are going to do when the liberal order to which we are so accustomed falls. We are in a historical moment because after the pandemic, our preconception of the world is going to change. We're entering a new era. Thank you for listening today. For more information on this report or other custom research, please contact us at info@cognisgroup.com or more directly in the U.S. at 1-303-709-3157 and outside the states at 44-1904-435-190. Thank you again.